Listen, probably one of the best ways in order to tell whether someone's jacked or not, whether someone goes to the gym or not, is the size of their arms, specifically the size of their biceps. If someone has big biceps, you can see it when they're wearing a t-shirt. You can see it when they're clothed without taking the shirt off. Biceps is one of the most telltale signs people use to determine whether or not someone hits the gym, whether or not someone's jacked. So because of popular demand, in this video, we're gonna go over all of the most popular bicep exercises and rank them. Stay tuned to find out the best exercises to get big biceps. All right, so first up, we got cross body hammer curls. So for these ones, I'm gonna put them right in B tier. So these ones, they have a very unique movement pattern. Compared to most other bicep exercises, you're moving it across your body. It kind of looks cool. You feel like a gorilla or something beating your chest. In terms of why it's in B tier, there's no inherent extra advantages, especially because you're not ever supinating your hands. So, the amount to which you train your biceps is limited in that sense, but it is still okay because you have the movement that goes across your body instead of straight up. So, there's some benefits, there's some disadvantages, but it's nothing too great, but it's not too bad either. All right, next up we got spider curls. So these ones suck. There's no real inherent advantage to it, and you have to do a bunch of different things to put yourself into that position. You have to have a very strict momentum, strict movement pattern. You're laying down in a very awkward position. On top of that, the weight can hit the seat. There's so many different disadvantages. There's so much extra stuff that goes into this exercise, and it doesn't really offer any real benefit. So with that being said, the spider curls is not very optimal. I would not recommend that. I would recommend picking up a different variation based on what your needs are and what you want to look forward to. All right, next up we got double arm hammer curls. These are the basic stock standard hammer curls. I love these ones. These are probably my favorite heavier bicep variation because you can load it up and use a little bit of momentum, get that swing going. You can definitely do a lot heavier with this kind of movement than you can with any kind of supinated pattern. So it's definitely good to vary it up. I think the magic in this movement comes with the variation of it and how much different it is compared to other exercises. So that's why I'm going to put it into B tier. It can potentially be A tier, but we'll leave it here for now. We'll move it in front of this one though, if we can. Yeah, there we go. All right, next up we got preacher curls. So preacher curls, very controversial movement. Preacher curls are probably one of the best exercises if you want to actually work your biceps at a maximum, feel the full stretch, have maximum tension. Preacher curls, it forces you to experience all of that. It forces you to kind of be in a position where you are experiencing all of that. However, preacher curls, I would not recommend. I think they're very, very dangerous. Even with the easy bar curls, even with other variations, sometimes I do feel like my biceps are being strained a little bit too maximally. The stretch is a bit too much, the tension is a bit too much. I can feel it the next day, the day after, or if I'm playing sports, if I'm playing baseball, especially throwing, catching, these kind of movements, lifting, stretching. I can feel the tension in my biceps, and I know for a fact if I was to do preacher curls, I would definitely pull something. If training biceps is your one true purpose in life, you're a bodybuilder, that's all you care about. You don't care about sports, you don't care about mobility. It can be okay. If you do this, I would urge you to be very, very careful. For me personally, it's much better to find a variation that's not going to, risk your health and just train that and overload that naturally. You will see growth if you do that. You don't need to do preacher curls. Preacher curls are very dangerous. People experience all kinds of injuries with them, bicep tears, bicep pulls. So overall, I would not recommend this. I would put preacher curls, just because of all the stuff I said, into C tier. If you're talking about pure stimulation, you can put it up here. If you're talking about dangers, it goes down here. So for me, is it necessary? No. You can easily achieve everything you want to achieve without preacher curls. So I'm going to put them into C tier. All right, next up we got narrow grip pull downs. So the picture here kind of sucks. I didn't choose the best picture, but narrow grip pull downs, especially the ones where you supinate your hands, where you keep your palms up. These kind of pull downs are probably the best exercise when it comes to stimulating your biceps. Doing the chin-ups, doing the reverse grip pull-downs. Mark Ripito, the guy from Starting Strength, he always recommends doing chin-ups over pull-ups because you get that extra bicep stimulation. So he always prefers you to do chin-ups over pull-ups. And Mike Mentzer, one of the best bodybuilders of his time, said that the best biceps exercise is the narrow grip pull-downs. There's the reverse grip pull-downs, palm supinated. It's an excellent exercise to stimulate your biceps. You have the full tension throughout both joint axes. So usually with bicep curls, you only have it through the elbow, whereas with the pull downs, you have it through the elbow and the shoulder. So your biceps are fully stimulated the whole time. It's a great movement, excellent exercise pattern. If you're doing it at the start of your workout, start maybe do chin ups, and then if you're doing it later on in your workout, go for the supinated pull downs. So with that being said, the picture sucks, sorry, but this goes right into S tier. This is an excellent exercise, one of the best things you can do for your biceps. Definitely do these if you want to grow your biceps. All right, next up we got wide grip pull downs. So we got lat pull downs. These are excellent exercise overall. One of the best exercises there is when it comes to pulling. Great for your back, great for your lats. In terms of bicep stimulation, you do experience some bicep stimulation. It does work your arms. It's a great pulling movement. However, if we're talking purely from a sense of how good is this for my biceps, I would say that it's not that great on its own. It's only good if you add it in with different exercises, maybe like a row, and then also one bicep exercise on one bicep isolation. So overall, I would say that wide grip pull down is a great exercise, excellent pulling exercise, great back exercise. For biceps alone, I would put it in C tier though. All right, next up we got cheek curls. So cheek curls, I would say definitely have a time and place for them. When you're doing some extreme form of strength training, you're training for power, you want to get used to moving heavy weights, definitely can be valid. But in my opinion, cheek curls, especially for most of us who are, we want like the aesthetics, we want the size, right? You don't really care too much about purely the power. And if we do care about the power, if we do care about the strength benefits from, using momentum, using heavier weights, I would recommend, instead of doing it for cheek curls, I would recommend doing some kind of, row movement or barbell row variation where you're using lots of momentum, because I think those are much more beneficial for most of us. Cheek curls, while they can have a time and a place, maybe if you're really plateaued, you haven't improved your biceps for like 3 or 4 months, you've tried different variations, then maybe try cheek curls. But overall, I would say that these are not that great. You're much better off doing some kind of cheat kind of row movement, or just doing regular curls. You're going to see much more benefits. You can overload regular curls just fine. So in terms of bodybuilding aesthetics, I would put this into C tier. All right, so next up we got cable curls. So these are definitely good. Actually, I actually never personally have done cable curls, but cable curls, the benefit is that you can maintain the tension throughout the entire movement. So the cable is forcing you to maintain tension throughout the entire movement, whereas with the regular curls, you might not experience tension, especially near lockout when you're holding the bar vertically and you have your elbows underneath the bar. So with the cable curls, like, the tension is always going to be applied pretty much the same amount throughout the movement. It's definitely a benefit. I would say the downside would be that you need to have more setup to do cable curls, especially with understanding the different angles. There is different angles to take when you're approaching the cable curls. You can have it set up a little bit lower to target different parts of your muscles, or a little bit higher to target maybe a different part of your bicep. So you have to understand all of these different things. You have to understand the setup as well. On top of that, when you think about functionality, a regular bicep curl would be like more functional in everyday life. It's a free weight, so you're just naturally going to be better at moving things, for example, picking up things, whereas with the cable curls, it's a little bit less functional because it is, a machine, it's a cable. So it's definitely a great movement. I would say even though the tension is probably more constant, it still is applied differently. There is probably still some benefits to a free weight as well in terms of tension, but overall, cable curl is definitely a good movement. I'll put it right into A tier. All right, next up we got waiter curls. These are like a meme. Don't do them. There's no reason to ever do a waiter curl. It's much more beneficial to actually hold a dumbbell or a barbell or easy bar or cable. It's much more beneficial. There's no advantage to holding the dumbbell like this and doing the waiter curls. It's kind of like a meme. It kind of looks cool. Maybe if you're already jacked, or if you already have a pump and you're doing them, it kind of looks cool because like you're squeezing your hands together, so your biceps really like pop and show like really muscularly. I do that too with with the easy bar. If I'm doing like a really narrow grip, you might be able to see it, but it's not in terms of functionality, in terms of actually growing you and experience the growth stimulus, these ones are a meme. Don't do them. All right, next up we got easy bar curls. So these are one of my favorites, just for experiencing, full tension, experiencing the full stretch, feeling the most fatigue on my biceps. These are my favorite. Getting the maximum pump. These are my favorite. I would say that the only thing that I personally noticed with this one is that if I do these for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, I notice that my biceps, my arms start to feel like a little bit strained, a little bit locked. I think just because of the way that your hands are forced to be locked into a certain position, so that the movement pattern is more locked, whereas your bicep wants to be more free flowing outside in regular life. So I do notice that there's a lot of tightness, especially if I do this frequently. So I would recommend if you do this, have easy bars, but then also every once in a while and change it up to some kind of dumbbells where you have more of a free flowing movement pattern, so it's more scalable. Even though the easy bar is nicer because you can use a heavier weight, the dumbbells are more free flowing, so they'll be more natural, and you'll be less likely to run into issues if you do that. So with that being said, easy bar, great exercise. I put it right into A tier in terms of feeling the growth, feeling the stimulus. Just be careful again. Make sure you're varying it up. Don't only do easy bar curls. You might run into problems, especially if you're someone who pushes themselves really hard like me. All right, next up we got the alternating twist curls. There might be an official name for this. I'm not exactly sure. I call them the Arnold curls because I remember Arnold made a video on some basic exercises, and like for biceps, he recommended to do it pretty much in this way because you get the stimulation not only from moving the bicep up, but you also get it from twisting as well. So, it's basically a standard dumbbell curl. Instead of being the regular supinated curls where you just have your palms up, you are bringing it down at the bottom, and you're doing alternating instead of one at a time. So it's more of like you're more concentrated on one hand at a time. I would say these are great, especially because of the reasons Arnold mentioned. But if I also look at any downsides, I would say like the arm that you're not doing at the moment, because you're only doing one at a time, right? So the arm that you aren't currently contracting, it might drop tension. I heard some people on the internet say, never drop tension on. So even if you're resting this arm, like always hold a little bit of tension in your bicep, like always have it a little bit flexed. Obviously that's a lot. That's a lot of work to do. So there is like some downsides to it, but overall, I think it's really, really great. I think you should try it if you never have. It's very unique and interesting. You're doing the twist and you're also doing the curl, so I think it's a great stimulation. So with that being said, we're gonna move this up into A tier. All right, next up we got the concentration curl. So I feel like these were really popular. Like when I was in high school, I remember guys doing it, like curls for the girls or some dumb shit. I think these are pretty decent. Obviously, like you're putting a lot of it's literally you're concentrating, right? You're concentrating really hard. You have the dumbbell right here. You're using very little momentum. So I think this exercise, it provides a good stimulation. I think it's really good for beginners because you get that full focus onto the bicep and onto the movement pattern that you need to do. However, there's a lot of cons with this as well. Just because of how little momentum you're using, this becomes very difficult to overload. It becomes hard to progress in weight when you're doing such a small movement with very little momentum, and you're using and then the movement pattern's also going very slowly. It becomes very difficult to overload. On top of that, it is kind of annoying because you are going to only be doing one arm at a time. So, it's going to take twice the time to complete one exercise. Even with the alternating curls, you're still doing, one set together with both arms, even though you're only doing one repetition at a time. It's still, the set's still not going to take too long overall. Whereas with this, you have to do extra sets. You have to do double the sets. So it is quite annoying. Overall, I would say, this is good, but not great. So I'm going to move this right into B tier. All right, next up, we got incline curls. So these ones, they feel really amazing. I remember the first time I did them. Basically what incline curl is, let me just rewind. Incline curl is like you're lying back with your biceps, with your arms straight down. So basically you're forced to do a curl with basically no momentum. It feels great. If you've never done it, I recommend trying it once or twice just to see how hard it is to actually move that weight without any momentum. And on top of that, you're leaning back into, an incline. So it's even harder. This exercise is very good, but I would say, again, it's not great because it becomes difficult to overload, and there's just better variations out there. So I'm going to move this one also into B tier. Next up, we got wide grip rows. So wide grip rows, very good for your back, very good for your back hygiene. You need to incorporate these once in a while at least. Your barbell rows, or even just wide grip cable rows or wide grip T-bar rows. However, when it comes to bicep stimulation, these are not the best at that. It's more so you're going to feel it in your rear delts, your rhomboids, your traps, your upper back. So with that being said, we're going to move this one into C tier when it comes to bicep workouts. All right, next up we got the supinated dumbbell curl. These are one of my favorite ones. These are like, my favorite low momentum, low weight kind of variation. Great to finish off, end off the bicep routine. You get the full burn. You get to like fully exhaust everything else. You get that last little bit of squeeze out of you. These kind of variations pair really well with, like, for example, the double arm hammer curls. It's very similar to the easy bar curl, except you're using dumbbells, so it's a bit more better for longevity purposes. You don't have that awkward lock into position, and I think it's better to train each arm individually as well, just because you don't want to have any kind of swinging. I think with the easy bar, it's easier to use a lot more momentum because you're holding the weight with more of your body. And on top of that, with the dumbbell, you're forced to stabilize. So I think it's just overall probably a bit nicer. So that being said, we're going to move this one right into A tier, but we're going to move it in front of the easy bar. There we go. All right. This one's supposed to be the last one, but we got the narrow grip rows. So I think narrow grip rows are an absolutely excellent exercise for stimulating your biceps. One of my favorite ones. A lot of times it's like, okay, I need to hit biceps, but let's just do rows instead. Let's do narrow grip rows, because these ones, obviously they hit your back. It's really good for your back, your lats, you get the thickness. But on top of that, it's a great movement for your biceps, for your arms. It's a great pulling movement overall. Obviously you have the cables, you have the maximum tension throughout the entire movement. You get the full stretch when you're fully extended. When you pull it back, you get the contraction. Make sure to lock that in to your stomach. One tip I would have is, control the negative. Make sure to control the movement overall in general. Try not to, be really explosive on the pull in, and then be really fast when you let it back out. I would say control the movement. Be more slow and intent with how the weight moves. That way you can get the full tension to experience maximum growth. So with that being said, I'm going to move this right into A tier as well. I love this movement. I think it's a great bicep exercise, even though it's not a bicep exercise on its own. I think it's great for your biceps. Just control the movement, overload that, and you'll see success. So yeah, let me just brush this up. It's basically, I think that one goes there. A bit better than concentration curls. Honestly, like A tier has a lot of stuff. I'm a bit hesitant to move anything to S tier though. These are all really good. Anyways, guys, I think we've cleared all the items on the tier list. It looks about as good as I could make it. I want you to remember, though, the best bicep exercise is the one that you're going to consistently do, the one that you're going to do, the one that you're going to be excited to do, the one that you're going to be always trying to overload. That's the way you're going to see growth. You're not going to see growth because you did whatever exercise I liked or I said that's going to be an S tier one time. It's not how it works. You have to be consistent and you have to overload. Those are how you see growth, especially with smaller muscles like your biceps. You need to push that progress forward. I would say if you're doing any of these exercises, B tier or higher consistently, you're always pushing for overload. You're training as hard as you can. You're definitely going to see growth. And again, don't do all of them. You might look at this and be like, oh, I have to do everything in A tier. I have to do, I must pick one from each of the tiers. No, you're much better off just choosing 2 or 3 different variations and being a master at those. If you're already on a set routine and you're already seeing progress, I would urge you not to switch off and instead continue your progress to see the growth that you want to see. I would say any of these exercises, B tier or higher, are completely valid for your growth in your arms. So the last thing I would say is, like, make sure to try and vary it a bit more. Let's say you're doing 2 different bicep exercises. So try to balance it out. If you're doing one with high momentum, high weight, then try to balance it out so you can burn out with something that's lower momentum and low weight. So for example, if you're doing double arm hammer curls and you're also doing narrow grip rows, then you're doing two movements that have high weight and high momentum. So instead, what you can do is do double arm hammer curls and then do supinated bicep curls, so that you have, you know, one that's heavier, you're using more weight, and then one to burn out. The same goes vice versa too. If you're doing, you know, two movements that have, you know, very low momentum, low weight, for example, concentration curls and incline curls, you know, swap one of them out to do maybe the narrow grip pull downs or maybe the double arm hammer curls. That'd be the best strategy I would take. Choose 2 or 3 of these. Don't overcomplicate your training. Train hard, eat well. You'll see the growth. Anyways, guys, with that being said, I hope you liked the video. That's going to bring us towards the end of this biceps tier list. It's kind of a unique thing that I'm doing, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video if you did. Subscribe if you're not already. I'll see you guys next time. Remember to hit the double bicep yawn pose. I can't fake a yawn, but bear with me.